cash registers never stop in Bentonville. On one side of town sits a modest-looking red brick building, the original Walton 5 and dime store, now a museum. Tourists walk through its aisles, looking at black and white photos of a skinny guy in a tie named Sam Walton, who once drove around in a battered pickup truck, obsessed with lowering prices by a few cents. A few miles away, glass and steel towers rise over Walmart's global headquarters. On huge screens, daily sales numbers flicker at a scale that would have stunned Sam himself. Every minute, somewhere in the world, customers are handing over money at a Walmart register. Most of that cash goes to suppliers, workers, and expenses. But a significant slice flows somewhere very specific, into the pockets, trusts, and investment offices of the Walton family. Today, they're routinely called America's richest family, a dynasty whose fortune is worth more than the combined wealth of dozens of other billionaire clans put together. But to understand how they got there, you have to start long before private jets and football franchises, back when the empire was one lease and a lot of nerve. Sam Walton was born in 1918 in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. He grew up during the Great Depression, learning early what it meant to stretch a dollar. After serving in the Army during World War II, he got into retail, first running a Ben Franklin variety store as a franchisee. He liked the work, but hated the limits. Franchisors dictated prices and product lines. Sam believed he could do better, especially for small-town customers who were used to higher prices and fewer choices. In 1962, he took a risk. In the town of Rogers, Arkansas, Sam opened the first Walmart. His idea was simple, almost obvious. Build big stores in small towns, cut costs ruthlessly, pass savings on to shoppers, and make it up on volume. At the time, most chains focused on cities and suburbs. Rural America was seen as an afterthought. Sam saw a goldmine where others saw empty parking lots. He drove thousands of miles visiting stores, watching competitors, and quizzing his own employees. He pushed for inexpensive but efficient distribution centers, early adoption of barcodes and data systems, and a culture that treated frontline workers and managers as partners, at least in theory. The slogan was clear: save money, live better, long before it became an official tagline. By the late 1960s, the Walton family owned a couple of dozen stores. In 1970, Walmart went public. That's when the flywheel really took off. An IPO meant two things: cash to expand and a public share price that transformed private stakes into visible fortunes. Sam and his brother Bud retained large holdings. Over the next decades, as Walmart spread across the United States and then the world, those shares multiplied in value. Sam didn't wait until the company was gigantic to think about inheritance. He began transferring large chunks of his Walmart stake to his children early, using trusts and corporate structures to minimize estate taxes and lock in family control. When he died in 1992, the framework was already in place. His widow, Helen, and their 4 children, Rob, John, Jim, and Alice, owned big blocks of Walmart stock. It's easy to forget the scale of Walmart today. It's the world's largest retailer by revenue, one of the biggest private employers on the planet, and a company that can pressure suppliers, reshape local economies, and influence wages simply by how it sets its own prices and policies. That power is corporate, but behind it is a family that still controls roughly half of the voting stock through entities like Walton Enterprises and the Walton Family Holdings Trust. The key thing to grasp is this: the Walton family's wealth is not built on dozens of different businesses. It's concentrated. Their main asset is Walmart itself. That concentration has two effects. First, it means their net worth rises and falls with Walmart's share price. When the stock climbs, their combined fortune can jump by billions in a day. When it drops, they lose more on paper than most people could earn in hundreds of lifetimes. Second, it gives them staying power inside the company. Even as professional managers run day-to-day operations, the family, through their holdings and board seats, retains long-term influence over Walmart's direction. The core of the modern Walton fortune is surprisingly small in human terms. A handful of heirs who sit atop the pile. The three surviving children of Sam and Helen, Rob, Jim, and Alice, each controlled tens of billions of dollars in Walmart shares and other assets. After John Walton died in a plane crash in 2005, his wife Christy and their son Lucas inherited his stake. Sam's brother Bud's daughters, Anne Walton Kroenke and Nancy Walton Laurie, also own smaller but still massive holdings. That's the inner circle. Around them, a wider ring of family members has more modest wealth by billionaire standards, often tied to local ventures, smaller stakes, and philanthropic vehicles. If you zoom out further, you'll see how the money leaves Walmart and spreads. Some of it goes into traditional investments, stocks, bonds, private companies, some into real estate, ranches, estates, and commercial properties, some into splashy public assets. Anne Walton Kroenke's husband, Stan Kroenke, controls major sports teams, including the Los Angeles Rams and Arsenal FC, often with Walton-linked money in the background. The family's fingerprints are also on banks, like Arvest Bank, long associated with Jim Walton, infrastructure, and various funds. Another large slice goes into philanthropy and what you could call legacy projects. The Walton Family Foundation is one of the biggest charitable foundations in the United States, focusing on education reform, environmental conservation, and community initiatives in Arkansas and the Mississippi River Basin. Different family members have their own foundations and giving priorities too. Lucas Walton has pledged billions toward environmental and climate-related investments. Alice Walton poured money into creating the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville, a world-class collection nestled in the Ozarks. So what makes the Waltons America's richest family? Part of it is simple arithmetic. Other dynasties, the Mars Candy family, the Koch industrial family, the hedge fund Johnsons, have enormous fortunes spread across multiple branches and businesses. But none match the sheer combined dollar amount tied to a single engine as large as Walmart. Year after year, lists of America's richest families put the Waltons on top, with a family net worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Another part is consistency. Tech fortunes can be made and lost in a decade. Oil empires can rise and fall with prices and politics. Walmart, for all its ups and downs, has remained a steady generator of cash and dividends. The Walton family has sold stock over time to diversify, to fund philanthropy, to prevent their ownership stake from creeping too high. But they have sold carefully. They maintain a balance that keeps them rich and in control without scaring investors or regulators. But there's a twist. Unlike old-school royal dynasties, the Waltons don't rule by law. They rule by ownership and influence. Walmart's board includes non-family executives. The company must answer to public shareholders, regulators, and markets. Customers can walk away if they don't like prices or policies. Workers can quit, unionize, with difficulty in the US, or pressure from the outside. That pressure has grown over the years. Critics charge that Walmart's success has come at a cost. Small local stores pushed out of business, low wages and tough working conditions in some regions, massive bargaining power over suppliers that can squeeze margins out of farmers and factories. Environmental groups push on packaging, waste, and carbon emissions. Labor activists compare the wealth of the Walton heirs to the pay of an average Walmart employee and ask hard questions. These critiques are part of the family story too. Being America's richest family in the age of social media and inequality charts means constant scrutiny. One response has been to lean harder into philanthropy and corporate responsibility. Higher minimum wages than before, sustainability goals, scholarship programs, and charitable grants. Whether those changes go far enough is still a matter of intense debate. Another response has been more quiet, a gradual step back from public roles. The original generation, Sam's children, have, over time, left daily management and even some board seats to non-family leaders or to the next generation. Their power is increasingly exercised through trusts, family offices, and foundations, rather than loud personal branding. If you try to boil all of this down to a single question, how rich are they exactly? You'll run into a familiar problem. We have estimates from financial publications. We know roughly how many Walmart shares the major family entities own. We can see some of their investments and properties. But private holdings, complex trust structures, and shifting share sales mean no one outside their inner circle can produce a perfect up-to-the-dollar number. What we can say with confidence is this: their wealth is measured in hundreds of billions, not tens. It has been built and maintained largely through one company, not a sprawling web of unrelated businesses. Their influence over that company, and through it over huge parts of American retail life, is still strong after more than 6 decades. The Walton story is not a rags-to-riches fairy tale in the classic sense. Sam Walton wasn't destitute. He was a sharp operator in a mid-20th century America that rewarded hustle and timing. But the leap from one store in Rogers, Arkansas, to a family fortune bigger than many national budgets is still astonishing. It raises some broader questions. What does it mean when a single family can, through one corporate engine, accumulate more wealth than millions of ordinary households combined? How should such fortunes be taxed, governed, or given away? And how long can a dynasty built on discount retail maintain its position at the top in an economy shifting towards services, technology, and digital commerce? For now, the Walmart logo still lights up highways and small-town roads. Trucks still roll out of giant distribution centers. Shoppers still hunt for bargains under fluorescent lights. With every receipt, a tiny fraction of the total flows back into a structure built over decades to keep one family's stake intact. The museum on Bentonville's town square tells the story of a man who loved simple things: bird hunting, old pickup trucks, walking stores, and chatting with customers. The towers nearby tell a different story, of a fortune that has grown beyond any one person's lifetime, managed by spreadsheets, trusts, and the careful hands of heirs who were born into the role of America's richest family. How that story ends, whether with a gentle dispersal of wealth, a bold wave of philanthropy, or a slow erosion under competitive and political pressures, is still being written, one shopping trip at a time.